G'day guys, welcome to the weekly roundup. This is where we go over all the latest boxing news from around Australia and the world ahead of the weekend, and it's going to be a massive one, especially for us Aussie fans, because our man Jai Opetaia will defend his IBF World Cruiserweight title against Englishman Jordan Thompson. The fight will take place at Wembley Stadium in London. It will take place actually Sunday morning Australian time from 4:30 a.m. It will be televised on Fox Sports. I think it's 5:07, so make sure you check that out. It's not pay-per-view, so you've got Fox Sports or KO. Make sure you jump on at 4:30. If you're up, maybe you're out there celebrating your football team's grand final win over the weekend. Who knows? But from 4:30 a.m. I think the main event will be on around 7 a.m. So not too late if you want to get up on a Sunday morning to watch that. Jai, as I said, last fought in July 2022, and it's been bad luck after bad luck for him, with former champion Marius Briedis being one of the fighters that have pulled out. There's probably two or three others that have pulled out as well. I haven't really wanted to go to purse bid, but Jai Opetaia gets his chance to shine on the English stage. We all know he's massive here in Australia. Really glad that he's getting amongst it in England. But one thing you will notice when they actually do face off is the height difference. Jordan Thompson, he's 6'6". He'll have a 4-inch height advantage over Jai Opetaia, who's 6'2". I don't know how he makes the weight, but he does. And he'll no doubt give Jai some problems. But as usual, we expect our man to bring home the belt. The main support on that fight, by the way, is Ali Scotney. She won the IBF Super Bantamweight title with a win over Australia's Shanika Johnson earlier in the year. She'll defend that belt against Laura Griffer. So a big card over there in England, and all the very best to Jai Opetaia. Some other news on the Australian scene. If you didn't see it earlier this week, I had Team Zoo 2 manager Glenn Jennings on the Talking Boxing. He did say that if Team Zoo gets past Brian Mendoza on October 15th here in Australia on the Gold Coast, that he will most likely fight in February or maybe March in Las Vegas. So this will most likely be the last fight for Tim Tszyu for quite some time on Australian soil. So some big news there if you're looking to get over to Vegas to support Tim Tszyu. No mention on opponents, of course. They're all got their eyes on this fight coming up, but that's exciting news for Team Tszyu and Aussie boxing fans. Another couple of fighters under the Team Tszyu 2 banner, or Glenn Jennings' banner, is Liam Wilson. You will see that Nathaniel May, Jackson John England are fighting on the Team Tszyu and Brian Mendoza card on October 15. Well, the winner of that will get Liam Wilson in a massive all-Aussie showdown. So that's going to be great for boxing fans here in Australia. And Vegas Larfield, narrow loser on the last No Limit show. He's looking to bounce back in November. There is the word that might be against Albert Nolan in a rematch. And also headlining that card will be Nikita Tszyu. So a big show to end the year in November for Aussie fans. On to the world scene, and there's only one fight that matters this weekend. Of course, it's Canelo Alvarez defending his undisputed super middleweight world title against undisputed 154-pound champion Jermell Charlo. That fight will take place at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. For Aussie fans, it will start at 11 a.m. Sunday morning. The fight's only $39.95, so very, very good value if you're a pay-per-view fan. That will, as I said, kick off at 11 a.m. Also on that card, Jesus Ramos Jr., 20-0, will fight veteran Erickson Lubin, 25-2 over 12 rounds. Now, this has big implications for Tim Tszyu, because Jesus Ramos has been touted as the heir apparent at 154, according to some, and not Tim Tszyu. And the word is that these two are on a collision course later in the next 12 to 18 months, because Jesus Ramos, a young 22-year-old prospect, has been making a lot of waves over their Mexican descent, of course. Erickson Lubin has had experience in these big fights. He lost to Erickson Lubin a few years ago, and of course to Sebastian Fundora as well. So it should be a really good test for Jesus Ramos Jr., and I don't think there's any coincidence they've got him as the co-main on this card, because I really want to showcase him down the track when maybe the 154-pound belts become vacant. Of course, Tim Tszyu will fight for the WBO belt, the full belt, on October 15, and plenty of those other belts will be up for grabs as well. Also on the undercard of that, Your Dennis Ugas, 27-5. Of course, we remember him losing to Errol Spence, but also beating Manny Pacquiao. He'll fight Mario Barrios, who's 27-2 for the WBC interim welterweight title. That's obviously over 12 rounds. Now, if you're looking at the card itself, it's a massive card. I'm not quite sure how many of them will be televised, but there is 106 rounds on this card. And will no doubt start at probably 3 to 3:30 on Saturday afternoon in Las Vegas. There is 3 12-rounders and 2 10-rounders on this card. So if you've got nothing to do on that Sunday, it's going to be a big day for boxing. And as I said before, $39.95 on main event and KO. So make sure to check that out. More than reasonable, if you ask me. Some recent results last weekend. The big Chinaman, Zhilei Zhang, moved to 26-1-1 with a third round stoppage or knockout of Joe Joyce, who fell to 15-2. Zhang stopped Joyce earlier in the year, but did it a lot easier this time with that third round KO. And there's talk now that Anthony Joshua might be next. Eddie Hearns even mentioned that it might be in China. So that will be a really, really big fight. Of course, who knows what's going on with the heavyweight division at the moment. Tyson Fury seems obsessed with MMA fighters at the moment. Does he want to come back and fight someone like a Zhang, or will he wait to see whether it's Anthony Joshua or Alexander Usyk situation? They're probably the only two boxers at this stage that seem to have any excitement for him whatsoever. But for Zhang, there may be fights apart from Joshua with Deontay Wilder, Andy Ruiz. So plenty of good fights for him out there. Maybe the rematch with Daniel Dubois as well. So plenty of options for Zhilei Zhang. Where does Joe Joyce go? Well, it remains to be seen. 38 years old, 2 consecutive knockout losses. So he needs to go back to the drawing board. Last week as well, we had a big card featuring the return of Conor Benn. It was in Orlando, Florida. He came back and won a 10-round decision over Rodolfo Orozco to improve to 22-0. Orozco dropped to 32-4-3. The scores are 99-91 and 96-94. There's talk now that Conor Benn will fight Chris Eubank Jr. maybe in December. I'm thinking more like February or March. We all know the history of the family, so that should be massive, especially in England. But Conor Benn back on track with a good decision win there. On that card as well, the main event was Richardson Hitchens. He moved to 17-0 with a 12-round decision over Jose Zepeda, 37-4. The score was 120-108 times 2 and 119-109. Also on that card, Jessica McCaskill defended her world welterweight title with a very, very disputed 10-round draw over Sandy Ryan. Jessica McCaskill now 12-3. Sandy Ryan 6-1, both with now a draw each. The scores 97-93. 94-96 and 95-95. A couple of big fights on the horizon. November 16, the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Shakur Stevenson will fight Edwin De Los Santos for the interim WBC lightweight title. Of course, Devin Haney will fight Regis Prograis on December 9 in San Francisco for the WBC 140-pound title. So these two here will fight for the interim title, and then we'll see what happens with Devin Haney after that. I would think if he beats Regis Prograis for that 140-pound WBC belt, he'll stay at 140. A couple of really good fights there. Of course, there's Teofimo Lopez and Ryan Garcia, just to name a couple. So looks like Shakur Stevenson will be probably the main man at lightweight. Some other big fights obviously happening probably in the new year will be George Kambosos and Vasily Lomachenko for the vacant IBF belt. So all the dominoes starting to fall there, and I'm sure by mid next year we'll have 4 new lightweight champions and some really juicy lightweight unification fights on the horizon. Also on that card, by the way, is Emmanuel Navarrete. He'll defend his WBO junior lightweight title against Robson Conceição. Navarrete 38-1 against Conceição 17-2. So a really, really good card at the T-Mobile Arena. Does it have the capacity to sell 20,000 tickets to that arena? We'll see. But I would have thought it might have been at a smaller arena, but they've scheduled it for T-Mobile. Let's see how well Shakur Stevenson and Emmanuel Navarrete can do in pulling the crowds in. And just the last thing on this week's episode is a little bit of news on Terence Crawford, Errol Spence. The rematch looks like it will happen early in 2024. Of course, there was talk that it would take place in December, but it looks like calmer heads have prevailed, and there's not enough time to really get this event together in a couple of months' time. So a little bit of negotiations going on there too with the weight. Of course, Terence Crawford, being the winner of the first fight, had the option of what weight this will be at or fought at. He's decided that it will be at 147. Of course, we all know Errol Spencer struggled for quite some time making 147. He wanted it at 154, but Crawford's saying now, well, hey, if you want the rematch, it will be at 147. Does seem a little bit ironic. I will say, though, that Crawford is saying he wants this at 147 for it to take place, but at the same time talking about jumping all the way up to 168 to fight the Canelo and Charlo winner. So, but I do get it. He holds all the cards. He won the first fight and definitively, so he gets to call the shots. So I don't really blame him for saying, well, if we're gonna fight, it's going to be at 147. So he has all the advantages. So we'll see how that one pans out. So that's it for this week, guys. Hope you've enjoyed it. A big week of boxing. Have a good weekend, and we'll catch you next week.